Hello everyone. First off, apologies, I'm not using a tripod today because I'm doing this video very quickly after work. I've very quickly taken the time to unsolder and remove all of the electrolytic capacitors from the XJ40 ECU, which is a Lucas 9CU. The Philips ones didn't come out very nicely because they were actually stuck to the board, which is a good thing because obviously they won't move. But the smaller value buttons actually came out without any problems at all. So if you're interested, these are 470 microfarads at 10 volts. So there's two of those, and there are three 40, I think it's 47. Let's have a look. Just trying to find the values. It's a bit dark on this one. That is tiny. Sorry, I've got to take this off camera and have a look. Yeah, 10 volts, 47 microfarads at 10 volts. So that one, 47 microfarads at 10 volts. I think this one's going to be the same. Where are you? 47 at, yeah, 47 at 10 volts. And the weird blue Philips one is 47 microfarads at 10 volts. So they're all the same. I don't know why one half of the board uses Philips and the other half of the board doesn't. I would think that they're probably made on separate lines and it's whatever was available on the line on the day. Because it's this one, this board that had the Philips components, and this board that didn't. And this one is the one that has the main logic on it. So before I go on and check the values, I just wanted to take you through the board itself. So I've done a little bit of reading up. I did annotate some of the chips on the last video, but this one, in fact, let's just move these out of the way. Let's turn this like so, and there we go. Again, apologies, no tripod, it's just a quick video. This one is a Hitachi HD 46508PA, which is the analog interface. So that contains parallel interface, serial interface, and a number of variable analog inputs which can be interfaced to this chip. So that's basically what the engine sensors actually interface with. This one's badged as a Lucas chip, but the part number is a Hitachi part number. So HD6301V1 G33P. The HD6301V1 is the important part. I think the V1 suggests that it's clocked at 1 MHz, and HD6301 is the microcontroller that it uses. I think the fact that it's badged as Lucas means that there is a fuel injection or engine management program contained on that chip, which is proprietary to Lucas. And from what I ascertain, it's clocked at 1 MHz, it has 128 bytes RAM and 4 kilobytes of ROM, which when you're dealing with purely binary input is absolutely more than enough. The chip itself, or the microcontroller part of it itself, is also found in certain keyboards as a keyboard controller and certain chess machines. Older sort of stuff, to be honest with you, but yeah. This one, I've googled the part number and I cannot find any reference to the part number. So I think it's a custom part number for Lucas, because the Motorola ZC, if you Google the part number that's on there, other ZC references come up and they're ROM chips, so they're programmable flash ROM chips. I'm not sure if that's a flash ROM or not, but my guess is that will contain the engine management fuel map and ignition map. These two, I googled the Philips one, and that is a Schmidt trigger. Now, I had to do a little bit of reading on this, but a Schmidt trigger translates analog inputs into digital. So basically the information coming from the analog interface is going to go via that to get translated into digital. The trigger part comes because the output value from that chip, which is going to go to probably that there, the microcontroller, only changes when there is a change to the input value. The other chips, I think, are possibly drivers for some of the sensors, especially the ones that have solenoid or motor control, like the idle air control valve, and solenoids such as the injectors, which might also be why you've got two rather fat looking diodes on there as well. Actually no, 4 in total, but there's 6 injectors, so not 100% sure, to be honest with you, but that is my assumption. It may be wrong, I don't know. Haven't googled that one yet, I'm not sure what that does. That's a CA224E, no manufacturer, so it'd be interesting to find out what that does. Right, now onto the thing that we want to see, which is how did the capacitors bell out value-wise? Yes, I know that's the wrong term to use, but it's a term that I like to use. I think it's normally used when you're doing things in the telephony world, so belling out a line. It's quite an old term now, but certainly earlier in my career, when I was dealing with trunk side voice recording, you'd have to, in some cases, you'd have to use a butt phone to make sure that you had voice energy at the point that you were interfacing to your trunk recording card. And yeah, we've used this sort of term where it's belling out this end, so it's absolutely fine. But anyway, I digress, as I always do. Now, because this was stuck to the board, it was very difficult to actually get it out. So I had to, well, I managed to unsolder it cleanly, but it kind of broke the legs off on both occasions and stripped away the Philips light blue protective covering. I'm not even going to bother testing those. I can tell you that the value on those, one of them was 470 ohms with 1.6% ESR, which I think is a bit high for that value. The other one was 470 ohms with about 0.8% ESR value, so that one would have been okay. But seeing as they're pretty much destroyed coming out, I'm just going to replace both of them. This one, let's just do that. So that is making contact. Let's do test. That one isn't even registering a value. Oh, now it is. 45.59 ESR of 1.1 ohms. That one might be okay, actually. So that's not registering high ESR. I think if you look at an ESR table, that's actually within range for that size of capacitor. So let's try these other ones. But yeah, one of those big fat Philips is definitely up for replacement, so it was worth removing anyway. So let's try this one. Sorry about the jerkiness. Yeah, 53.49 microfarads, 3.2 ohms. I said percent on the last one, I meant ohms. 3.2 ohms ESR, that's high, I think. So that can be discarded. This one, Ah. 3.3 ohms, 54. Yeah, so that one's probably worth replacing as well. And seeing as they're not that expensive, and I've taken them out already to test them, I'll just replace them. I actually have some of the 47 microfarad 10 volt ones to go in, but I need to get hold of some of these 10 volt 470 ohm capacitors. These I think are known as axial capacitors because they are, well, they're quite literally laid on their axis. And from what I understand, that end is negative because it's silver. This end is positive because it has a colour. Now that colour may be red, it may be black. So that's just something to bear in mind, that polarity is, well, obviously with any electrolytic capacitor, polarity is very important. But just to be wary here that I think some of them actually have, so I've got a pair of 100 volt ones, 100 volt 470 ohm ones, which I did trial fit, but they're way too fat for the board. But they have a series of black arrows with a little minus symbol pointing towards the silver end of the capacitor, and the black end of the capacitor is positive. So this one I think is actually marked, is it marked as positive? Yes, it is. Yeah, there you go. Little plus symbol there, you can just about see it. So that one is positive. But I'll be honest with you, it's quite interesting going into one of these and just sort of finding out really how it works, because it is sort of just a step above a, in this case it quite literally is just a step above a chess game. It doesn't have much in the way of processing power, but it doesn't really need it. You're just literally, certainly with an older engine like this, you're dealing with a handful of sensors. There's no knock sensor on the 3.6 version of the XJ40 AJ6 engine. There's no catalyst or sort of lambda probe or catalyst on my version. US ECUs are probably different because they do have to accommodate for a lambda probe because they do run a catalyst on those. So it might use the same ECU. It may actually, this one may be the same unit. I'm not sure. Someone might be able to tell me in the comments if they use a Lucas 9CU or if they use a different Lucas ECU. But later versions, obviously the ECU changes on the 4 litres because they have to deal with, I think they use a Lucas 15 CU, I want to say. But they have to deal with lambda probes, etc., so on and so forth. And obviously, if you introduce a knock sensor into the equation, it's going to change again. The Lucas 14 CU, which is used on the, I know it's definitely used on Land Rover Discovery 3.9 V8s, I think Range Rover V8s with EFI, and I think also used on the Rover 820i and SI, so the XX Rover 800 series. So the and this will upset a load of people, but I don't really care. The good Rover 800 generation, as opposed to the Mark II, which is the not so good. And by that I just mean looks wise. I mean technically the Mark II is a better car, but I always prefer the Mark I. Mark II does nothing for me. They use, I think, also use the Lucas 14 CU as well. And there you go. So technically this ECU is actually quite old, but this is a combined ignition and fuel injection ECU, which is probably why there's 2 separate boards. One for fuel injection, one for ignition. Although in this case, I don't know if that's quite true, because what I think some of the fuel injection stuff is on this one as well as on this one. Certainly the main logic's on this one anyway. I've waffled on for long enough, I always do. Some of you seem to watch it, so I must be doing something vaguely right. If you have liked this video, and I do apologise I haven't used a tripod, I really should, because I've been talking now for 15 minutes, and this was just supposed to be a quick 5-minute video, so yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, take care, and see you soon.